It's 12:53 on Power 98.7. Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation, David Mahlobo, joining us on the line. Deputy Minister, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, my sister, and an afternoon to your listeners.
So, of course, the African Union Water Investment Summit 2025 is currently underway in Cape Town. However, there has been a phenomenon of water mafias that we have seen taking over the country. Just what is being done by the department regarding water mafias in South Africa?
Now, then, Tshego, what we need to appreciate is that this is a new phenomenon that is starting to escalate, and it undermines South Africa's constitutional right of having access to clean water. Issues of the acts of vandalism, whether it's theft or illegal connection, including extortion by those people who call them water mafias. There is also the destruction of pipelines, pump stations, reservoirs, and so forth. And the impact is very huge because the right to access to water will be impacted, the right to access to health services. Remember, water and hygiene, they are very related. You can't have a situation where there's a vandalism of infrastructure, pollution happens, then you have a waterborne diseases. It impacts on rights to education. Remember, the children that are supposed to go to school, especially the girl child, issues of economic activities, including the right to have access to service delivery. That's how the matter is serious. And these matters are currently happening in our own country because criminality is at another level, especially those who are involved in the issues of copper, the ferrous and non-ferrous equipment. And as a government response, remember there is a legislation that we did in terms of combating of those illicit activities. We don't only have to put systems just to deal with those, but we must also deal with the issues of the market as a response to deal with that. Secondly, the illegal connection are happening in many communities. Communities are connecting to infrastructure. You'll have a low pressure that is happening in other communities. In the main, you can be able to deploy the security services, but it's a planning issue and how communities are being circled. Because if communities are being circled either in the flat line, whether on top of the servitude, then they'll be able to tamper with a particular infrastructure. But it has an impact on the issues of the financial viability of municipalities because they lose the required revenues to deal with that particular point. Therefore, it needs a multi-pronged approach. Mm-hmm. In rural communities and peri-urban communities where there is no infrastructure at all, communities are provided water through the water tankering. And this water tankering, instead of being a temporary measure, it has become permanent. How do you remove the problem? You do insourcing. The state must be able to buy its own water tankers, ensure that there are no issues that are dealing with those particular aspects that will be able to affect this. And more importantly, because those employees, they will start with the contractors or water tankers to affect the issue of the valves in terms of the tempering of the valves. Mm-hmm. But then there is issues of procurement. You know, many people have understood that water is a big business. You find that procurement is being delayed because certain people or councillors, they don't agree who must get a particular tender. Then there's an extortion where they are going to demand a certain percentage just for an invoice to be paid. Then they will also demand a certain amount to be done. Then there are also the issues, which is a new phenomenon, where projects are being stopped. These people come as gangs, they're militarized, having the highest kind of caliber of equipment. And we need to work with communities. We need to do facilitation in the community so that we don't have problems. Mm-hmm. But because water is a problem, there's also a digital threat. You know, the digital threat, most of our systems are automated. And if they're automated, the issue of cybersecurity and the people interfering with our water system, these are some of the issues. Then the last point is corruption. On corruption, to root it out, we've agreed as a country to actually form water and sanitation anti-corruption forum in a form of the fusion center. We have the police, NPA, the Hawks that are them, the SIU, so that we can be in a position to work through the whistleblowing mechanism doing the integrity of those who are working there in the system in terms of their lifestyle audit, issues of rotation, but also using technology on how we can be able to use artificial intelligence and other forms of technologies so that we can be able to look after the infrastructure so that it cannot be vandalized.
So, DM, we do know that this water summit, as I mentioned, is underway, ending today in the Western Cape. How will this summit assist residents and improve the water quality in our country?
You know, the most important about this aspect, why we're here, we're responding to a call. We're just less than 5 years towards 2030. The SDG goals are far from being met. When it comes to water, 2.2 billion people in the world don't have access to safe drinking water. 3.6 billion don't have access to decent sanitation. We're to look at how do we scale up investment. In the world, we're looking at $7 trillion US dollars, our continent looking at $30 billion US dollars per annum. In our own country, we need more than R1 trillion just to get the current system to work while we're dealing with the other issues that are there. Therefore, these funders, they've agreed that in terms of domestic finances, using our developmental institutions, but more importantly, in private sector funding, opening up the reforms, that's what will be in a position to help us. But then there are issues of climate resilience, because if we are dealing with issues of water and sustainability, you don't look at issues of climate adaptation. Some parts of our continent, especially SADC, who are living in water-stressed areas. In the world, more than 2.4 billion people are living in water-stressed areas, and in SADC, you know, is the same problem. The issues of drought and how we are going to do water efficiency, but also the issues of management of flooding. At the end, there's the last point to say you can't leave communities behind. You have to build resilient and vibrant communities. In other words, indigenous knowledge is very important in indigenous systems, but also the issues of civic education, ensuring that there are campaigns that we run together with people, because all what we do is for our shared prosperity so that our economic returns, social transformation, whether it's biodiversity and security aspects, are taken into consideration.
DM, let me thank you for your time this afternoon. Appreciate it.